This is a day I've dreamed about. We're at the Charlie Russell Museum in Great Falls, Montana. I've been planning my trip to this museum for a really long time, and I'm so excited to share it with you. Let's get started. This is the man that we're all here to see. This is Charles Russell. Charlie Russell to his friends. Western artist extraordinaire. From the museum, you enter the Van Ness courtyard and you see the family home and the log cabin studio. We're inside the Russell family home. Nancy Russell was Charlie's wife, also his marketer, perhaps his social media influencer back in the day.
Hello, Russell residence, Nancy Russell speaking.
My dear Mrs. Russell, this is Malcolm McKay phoning.
Oh, my dear Mr. McKay, it's so good to hear from you. Thank you for the check. Chaz and I are both so pleased to think you like your picture.
Well, the sketch enclosed in Charlie's letter was just about on the mark. The painting arrived today, all in fine shape, and it sure is a wonder. I am pleased and satisfied with it in every way.
Chaz, are you nearly finished for the day? It's almost noon, and I am anxious to go riding together with all the fine weather we're having.
Almost, maybe. I'm still catching strong light from the window.
I received a call this morning from Mr. Shotsline. He's placed another order for paintings and wants 3 more to sell in his store in Butte.
Cow horn chair.
Sculptures, Chaz, but they are everywhere.
Look here, maybe. I used one. A full TV setup.
When they were renovating the house, they found several layers of wallpaper. And these are the wallpapers that Nancy hung in the house. Let's peel back the layers. All the way to the original pattern, hung in 1900. This room was for more than just eating. It was the showroom, a place to display Charlie's art and to meet with potential buyers. And Jack's high chair right in the corner. All the modern touches. The kitchen. If you've seen some other videos, you know that I love looking at kitchens. I think that they're the heartbeat of the house. And they tell how things really happened in a house. And this is an ice chest. And here are ice tongs that they use to move the blocks of ice into the ice chest. A little pantry with a couple of workstations. Do you know what this is for? It's for washing clothes. You agitate the clothing by moving it up and down to move the water through the clothes as you're washing them. And that was for squeezing all the water out of the clothes after you wash them and after you rinse them. We're on the second floor of the home where the bedrooms are. This is the spare room. And sometimes for boarders. This is Jack Russell's room. So much beautiful light. Certainly grow up as a happy child with this much light. After so many years of being childless, I'm sure that they were very excited to take Jack Cooper Russell for walks in this beautiful pram. I wonder how many nights Nancy Russell looked out this window to see the light on because her husband was working late into the night. This is the bedroom with the big brass four-poster bed. A sewing machine, which was very necessary. We really didn't have the opportunity in the Wild West. Even though they were in Great Falls, a lot of people still sewed their own clothing. They surrounded themselves with beauty and beautiful pieces from other artists and artisans, like this handcrafted bed. Charles Russell died on the second story of this building. It happened very quickly. He struggled, he collapsed, and died of heart failure in 1926. The Russells traveled between New York and Montana, Montana and Glacier National Park, Montana and Pasadena, California, where they built their home, the Trails End. Let's take a second to enjoy the view from this beautiful covered veranda on the main house and then head over to the log cabin studio. I love a covered porch. I love it so much. Another covered porch, and this one the studio, which according to Chaz, which was his wife's nickname for him, was a place for his friends to talk and to smoke. This is the first museum dedicated to Charlie Russell's life and work. Begun in 1926, this gallery edition was designed and built to display Charlie's art and perpetuate his memory. When Charlie died, Nancy Russell didn't just stop her marketing activities. She shifted gears to start a museum. She organized exhibitions on both coasts and commissioned a biography. She sold the house and studio to the city of Great Falls for a museum, which opened in 1930, the predecessor of the C.M. Russell Museum. Melting wax. I'm hoping the worst of your travel is behind you, and sickness nor sorrow don't find you. An unfinished painting. Oh, look at those elk antlers. This is the first ever sculpture that Russell had cast in bronze. Dear Chaz, I'm ready to hunt, kid. Come any day and let me know when to meet you. The weather is fine and there are tracks about. I reckoned I'm skinned again, but maybe I'll try again sometime.
Little bear and bear fled from western Canada in the wake of the Northwest resistance held their relocation. Petri. Both tribes within the Bear lifestyle in Montana.
Charlie Russell was born in 1864 and he passed away in 1926. So at the time of this filming, it's 100 years since we lost Charlie Russell. He was born in St. Louis, Missouri, the son of a well-to-do family. But he became obsessed with family stories about fur traders, cowboys in the Wild West. And he spent all of his time doodling in his textbooks and filling sketchbooks with scenes of American Indians, Western animals, and hunters. Russell enrolled in a life drawing class at Washington University in St. Louis, but he didn't stay long. He preferred to learn on his own. These two paintings are believed to have been painted by Russell when he was 13. This collection of Russell's early sketches and works offers insight into how he developed compositionally, including his use of color. And by comparing them to his later works, we can see how the artwork reflected his changing perspectives and views on life. When he turned 16, his parents allowed him to travel to Montana, hoping that a few months on the frontier would discourage his fantasies about Western life. But Russell never looked back, and he stayed in Montana the rest of his life. Soon after his arrival, he began working as a sheep herder and then as a trapper's assistant. In 1882, he was hired as a nighthawk. That's a wrangler who watches the horses at night. It was the perfect job for Charlie Russell because he wasn't the greatest cowhand. When you drive through Montana, you see a lot of views like this, rolling hills. Self-taught, Russell relied on his keen observational skills to become successful and accurately depict what others had witnessed. Time work freed him during the day to observe and sketch the cowboys in their daily activities. In 1893, Russell retired from the cowboy life to become a full-time artist. He moved to Cascade, Montana, where he met and married Nancy Cooper in 1895. She was 14 years younger than her husband, but she became not only his devoted partner, but also a very astute business manager. Deciding her husband needed to be in a bigger town to promote his work, Nancy moved them to Great Falls, where they built their home in 1900. In 1916, the childless couple adopted a baby that they named Jack. By the early 1920s, the family was spending winters in Southern California, and they had started construction on a second home in Pasadena when Charlie died suddenly in Great Falls in 1926. When she grew tired of Charlie using her dining room as his painting studio, she had a log cabin studio constructed just outside the back door of the house. And a few years later, they built a summer cabin, which they named Bullhead Lodge, on the shore of Lake McDonald in what would later become Glacier National Park. The two buildings were designated a National Historic Landmark in 1966. Just down this ramp are the works from the Petri collection. Wow. Wait till you see this. This is the Tom and Jane Petri Russell Legacy Galleries. Thomas Petri grew up appreciating everything there is to know about Charles M. Russell. As a boy, he spent his summers in northern Vermont with his grandparents reading books illustrated by Russell. These small and beautiful illustrations captured his imagination and sparked his love for Western art. His first Russell painting was Friend or Enemy, which Russell painted in 1900. This is the Hold Up. It's an oil and canvas. His doodles and scribbles and letters to friends. This is the Mussel Shell Roundup, painted in 1919, Jumped, painted in 1914. Letters and drawings for Buddy Buck. This note will introduce George McEwen, a friend of mine. You can talk to cows and have argued many a poor cow out of her calf. It's a wonder to me with your cow knowledge. You ain't making hair bridles. I don't think my friend Mac has any cow wisdom. If he does, he's holding out on me. All his talent runs to fish. If it's sinful to go fishing Sundays. I know Mac's address when he leaves this earth. The fish don't talk much, but Mac signs to them. Angry, kind of fresh trout meets Mac when he's out with his lines and out of luck. Now, Baldy, anything you do for McEwen, better known as Bull Trout, would be a favor to me. Your friend, Charlie Russell. It's kind of hard to not get reflections. This is called The Kindergarten. It's from 1890. The history of Russell's bronzes is complicated. During Russell's lifetime, very few bronzes were actually cast. Instead, most of the molds were left to Nancy, so she could have an income for herself and Jack after Russell's death. The subject of the crier reflects the Native American man who was tasked with alarming the camp about impending raids. This is a fun collection. Some clothing. This is a saddle made in 1887 by Frank Manea. We saw something about Frank Manea in the letter that Charlie Russell wrote his friend, saying he didn't know much more than fishing. He certainly didn't know anything about cows. Just based on the saddle, I believe he was probably joking. Wax, plaster, and paint. Wax, wooden paint, wax, plaster, and paint. These are not bronzes. Russell's ability to entertain others with his modeling is perfectly captured in this 1915 photograph. The professional photographer A.J. Baker, who took this photo during the first pack trip through the Glacier National Park that Eaton organized for wealthy Easterners. Eaton invited his friend Russell to go on the 300-mile trek with the understanding that Charlie would entertain the dudes with tall tales of the West. Clay, plaster, and paint. Nutshells and paper. Wax, wire, and fabric. Wax, wire, and fabric. Wax, paint, and plaster. This is from the Trigg collection. This was a gift to Josephine Trigg, his neighbor. This is a Hopi Indian sash. A dyed horsehair hatband on a Stetson hat. This, of course, is just a tiny summary of some of the paintings that are in the galleries. There is so much more to see. Oh yeah. This is called The Exalted Ruler. Look at the size of some of these paintings compared to human beings. Some of them are giant. I'm really partial to his wildlife and mountain scenes and to that everyday life of cowboys. This one is 1916 and it's called Paying the Fiddler. And this is what happened to cattle rustlers. I think if you were thinking about Yellowstone, they'd be talking about taking you to the train station. The execution of the rustler was swift, even before he had chance to brand the stolen calf. Gallery number 9 is devoted to the display of the Josephine Trigg collection. There are over 150 works in this collection. And this location where the museum is located is actually where the Trigg home once sat. The artwork was donated, the land was donated, and it created the first Charlie Russell Museum. Oh, you can see this dress, and she's wearing it in this photo. Thanks for taking the time to donate and plan for all of this museum for us to enjoy. Here are her parasol, gloves, bonnet, and glasses. Charles Russell's death in 1926 was devastating to his wife, son, and close friends. For Nancy, it ended the period of them living in Great Falls. This is an inscription inside of the cover of the book, Good Medicine. Mama Tig and Josephine. When you open this book and turn its pages, there will flash before you the visions of two men, Charlie and Daddy Trigg. The memory of them is as delicate as the perfume of the twin flower, yet powerful as the mountains where they grow. A hand-painted Christmas card with lots of love to Josephine from Nancy, Christmas 1912. The figures in this little watercolor resemble Josephine and Nancy. On a camping trip, the Russells, Triggs, and a few other families took to Hardy Creek in 1898. After Russell's death, the city of Great Falls could not raise sufficient funds to secure a major collection of Russell's work. So determined to see a memorial established for Russell in his own town, Josephine held onto her family's collection of Russell artwork and crafted a will that would ensure her collection remained intact and in Great Falls. Knowing more about the relationship between Josephine's family, affectionately known as Josie, and the Charles Russell family, this collection is especially poignant to me. Russell often wrote about his homesickness when he was away with Nancy, visiting family or traveling for work. This is a letter he wrote from the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis. Friend Trigg, as I am lonesome and a mite far away from my range, I thought it might help some to just think of you and the people I was in company of. I knew the sun was going to come out, and going to a museum is the perfect thing to do on a rainy Saturday morning. But this afternoon, we're headed out on another adventure. We're driving from Great Falls to Helena, Montana, on one of the most beautiful roads you'll ever see. Come along for all the sights.